do we want to do a David Attenborough style intro to this?
Ooh, yeah, what you got for me?
I think I've got it. So we're gonna, in editing, cut to letterbox aspect ratio. We're gonna cut to black. We're gonna fill in some fucking cool nature music, and then we're gonna slowly fade in while David Attenborough starts. Planet Earth, populated by millions and millions of species across the globe, but none more ubiquitous or more profound in their effects than one of the Homo sapiens. The most destructive and intrusive and world-destroying creatures this planet has ever seen, the Homo sapiens arise out of sub-Saharan Africa, growing a huge gluteus maximus, aka the buttocks, bringing forth the ability to run and hunt down prey. This, combined with magic mushrooms, may have led human beings to become the most dominant and vicious species on the planet. Now, today, on the NoFun Zone podcast, you will hear the stories of 1,000 generations past, as human beings became the rising and most dominant species the Earth has ever known, wiping out pygmies, wiping out wildebeest, perhaps even the vicious saber-toothed tiger. Come and take a journey on the NoFun Zone podcast to discover the wonderful world of human evolution. I'm David Attenborough. Subscribe, like, and follow the great NoFun Zone podcast. And then intro music starts.
Dude, you got quite pessimistic, dude. Pessimistic on humans.
Well, what are you talking about? I complimented how great our asses were compared to other chimps and other primates. I said that we had a huge brain because of psychedelic mushrooms.
Okay.
And also, why are you blaming me? That was David Attenborough who just said all those things. So there's absolutely no way in shape or form that you can blame me for these statements.
This is just coming like through me. It's David's words. It's coming through me.
You know, I do tend to agree with him that us developing a giant fat ass about 200 million years ago, that was pretty crucial for us living. Also, potentially eating mushrooms that we found. We'll get into all this. Welcome to the NoFun Zone podcast. I cannot believe that we got Sir David Attenborough to actually, create the intro for this episode. It's amazing. It's almost as amazing as the time that we got Donald Trump and Alex Jones on the podcast, which fascinating. But yeah, we're going to talk about the evolution of humans and how our big fat asses and our big stupid brains got us to where we are today. So yeah, let's start at the beginning, I guess.
Dude, you're crushing it right now. I'm spacing out hard.
I'm in a zone, baby. I'm in a zone.
Crushing it. I need to get on your level, dude.
Dude, when the camera presses record, I shine.
This is true.
Once that record button hits, guess what?
You shine on, Ryan. You shine on, buddy.
Shine on, you crazy diamonds. Yep.
You know that Tenacious D song where he inward singing?
And I'm inward fucking singing, and you leave it.
What if we sang the intro? What if we sang the intro kind of like that, like in a weird, goofy way like that?
With the intro for the podcast?
Yeah, not necessarily like it has to be inward singing, but like just really goofy lyrics.
Oh, that's totally what my intention was. Is we're gonna be
Cool.
very silly and like over the top silly to the point where like you can't take us seriously.
Yeah.
I've been working on this idea of managing expectations. And so if the intro to the podcast is unequivocally just silly, goofy nonsense, then people aren't going to take us for our word. And like we've tried to express multiple times on this podcast that we're idiots and we don't know what we're talking about, but we're having a good fucking time. But there's a lot of stuff that you should maybe fact check because we don't know.
Fact check. Don't fact check everything.
Yeah.
Our research is fucking so shit. Mine is. It's just so basic.
We're getting the ballpark, I feel like. You know what I mean? We're not into specifics and details and numbers and dates and facts and all that kind of shit. We're more into the somewhere between 150 and maybe 300,000 years ago, Homo sapiens arrived. Once again, not good with numbers, facts, details. I think if our intro music and our intro video is as profoundly weird and just silly and idiotic as we are, then that just establishes a good sort of framework for what we're going to get into.
Totally. Yeah, I agree.
So it's going to be very silly and over the top, just like us. So human evolution. You want to jump into it?
All right.
We're gonna be
Let's dive in.
Let's dive in. And what's the deal with humans anyway? I didn't know how to jump back in. All right, let's go back to sort of like the beginning of the sort of transformation from us moving from like sort of the great apes and the primates, even though we are still primates, but us sort of like making our sort of transition into our own branch. One of the prevailing theories in biology, I guess, or archaeology, I guess it's kind of a combination of both. So we have the one common ancestor, the sort of quote unquote missing link. I do find it funny though that anytime that we find a new quote unquote missing link, the bar just gets set a little bit higher. It's like, well, where's the link between that and this? But we do have the common ancestor of the fossil nicknamed Lucy, Australopithecus, 300,000 years ago in I believe Saharan Africa. Let me look that up. Where we found Lucy.
Wasn't Lucy like 3 million years ago?
Oh, maybe. I might have just confused my numbers. Let's look this up really quick.
3.2 million years.
3.2 million. So I guess that's probably what I meant when I said 300,000.
Yeah.
But that sort of is that common link of like sort of the genetic split between what we consider the species that eventually morphed into, we're already running out of time. The species that morphed into what become Homo sapiens. Became Homo sapiens and like Neanderthal and all of the other sort of Homo erectus, like the upright walking.
The Australopithecus birthed the Homos. That came out so awkward. Okay, so Australopithecus gave rise to Homos, but they also gave rise to other different hominid species. So it's like Lucy, yeah, that's that first common ancestor where the mutations occurred in Australopithecus that birthed the first Homo species.
So when Danny says homo, he means upright. So that means like bipedal is sort of, I guess, what the real distinction in my view is, as opposed to gorillas and chimpanzees primarily, primarily walking on all fours and occasionally standing up. But in the documentary that I watched that Danny sent over was fucking it was literally the creation of just having a big fucking ass that gave humans, or what would be humans, the ability to stand upright and be able to be erect homos. We're gonna get flagged for so many of these jokes, I'm assuming. So, human beings. We kind of are the most destructive species on the planet. And we are the most ubiquitous. Like every corner of the earth is populated by humans. And we've just taken over this shit through evolution. But I don't know. It was a struggle getting to the top. It took us a while. So human beings started out in sub-Saharan Africa, which is wild. Like both literally wild in terms of the beast that you have to fight off.
It was wild. Yeah.
But also that's a crazy place for humanity to start. Like it's just like the amount of predators that you have to fight off that have since like rubbed off on us as a species overall. You know.
Right. They say like it was like, the very, very early ancestors were the species that had been coming out of the forests down from the trees and like roaming like the grasslands and stuff to try to like adjust to their environment. And I bet in those beginning days, like I'm sure it was a lot of like trial and error, evolutionary speaking, to like help them find the success they needed in that shift. Oof, those would have been testy days.
Well, and like we said in like the last podcast, like the only way that evolution works is when you have those environmental pressures, like climate change, and now all of a sudden the rainforest is turning into arid grasslands.
Yeah.
And you either adapt and survive, or you stay in the trees away from the predators and hopefully get to continue eating fruit until the trees die out. That kind of falls in line with like the Terence McKenna's stoned ape theory, that when climate change, early human ancestors moved from the safety of the trees to go and be able to find food and find sustenance. And that's when they started experimenting with different food sources, like potentially trying to eat grain, which maybe might have had ergot on it, but most likely flipping over the patties of these like grassland grazing animals like oxen and water buffalo and cow species, and then flipping over the cow patties looking for bugs and something that they could sort of forage, and potentially found psychedelic mushrooms. And that his theory states that them finding the mushrooms is a part of the explanation for the doubling of the brain size over the span of like 2 million years from Australopithecus towards sort of modern humans.
But I'm curious. I read his Food of the Gods, which talks about the stoned ape theory, and like I think it's just a potential theory for part of the process, because there's also super important roles of like when we started cooking food, like what that did for our jaws and our brain size and things like that as well.
Yeah.
So, well, it is interesting to think like just from like through like individual perspective of like what it would have been like on mushrooms being like an early hominid, like moving down from the trees, and then like you eat these weird mushrooms, and all of a sudden like you're seeing all these geometrical patterns and shit, and like
or having entities talk to you, and like
yeah,
that's
yeah,
the potential creation of religion. We can go into that at some point, but
that should be
but
an episode in and of itself.
I think we've at least hit on the topic a bunch of times in other episodes, but
Yeah,
that could be a full blown,
we'll
just
get
like
we'll get
really
back
fun,
there.
full
Yeah,
like
yeah,
deep dive into that idea of like the basis of religion and
yeah.
astronomy, how that folds into it, plus the numerous historical pieces of evidence that show that hallucinogens were definitely used in religious ceremonies, like
Mhm.
soma in India and the Hindu culture, and the mysteries of Eleusis, and you know what's the author's name? The guy who wrote Sacred Mushroom and the Cross. Who presented the idea that Christianity is a masked uh, um, fertility slash mushroom taking cult. Um, yeah, we could definitely get into that in a full episode. But so yeah, I guess the typical idea of a lot of people is trying to find that there's multiple theories of how humans gain the capacity and the caloric capacity to grow these giant brains, because that's a big part. Is having a big brain means you need to have a consistent caloric intake to be able to sort of supply blood to this functioning brain. um, I feel like people always want to attribute it to one specific theory, whereas I kind of think it's probably a combination of all of them, where
Yeah, it's yeah. I mean, yeah, it's definitely more than one thing set over a long period of time, right? Because what modern Homo sapien 250,000 years, so from 3.2 to 250,000, like it's not
it's a
just going to
long
be one
time.
big thing that like on the flick of a switch is going to change it, right?
Well, and maybe it's
That natural selection has to weave through the natural selection process.
yeah, and maybe a certain couple of tribes of pre-hominid species tried some mushrooms, and it gave them more of a capacity for language, and that allowed them to communicate better. And because they can
Mm-hmm.
communicate better, now they are able to hunt more effectively. And eventually, like it ends up stacking up and stacking up and stacking up
Yeah,
and
yeah,
stacking up, and all these little advantages that might have been sort of initiated by taking a psychedelic substance that allows your brain to sort of see things in a different way. And maybe that's where you come up with the addle and the ability to, well, in conjunction with you know biologic evolution. At the same time, our hips are changing, our shoulders are changing, because now we're not relying on our shoulders to be walking on all fours like chimpanzees do. Our shoulders become a little bit more free to move in a more sort of circular arcing motion, and we develop fine motor skills to be able to manipulate objects better and form better crafted tools. And then that combined with us being able to hunt, and then the creation of fire, we're able to cook meat, and we get a higher caloric yield out of cooked meat. And that's it. It's a combination of all of those things all sort of coming together. And like the spark might have been, oh, these primitive species ate some mushrooms, and it gave them a new perspective and a new way to think about things in order to implement all of these innovations. So it's almost like a creationist kind of theory. You know what I mean?
mm-hmm.
In a more or a less conservative way of just like not God created everything, but God was more of the initial mover and the initial spark that created this chain of events. Mushrooms
I'm
could have been
curious. I'm
actual
sure there's a
plants.
lot of other. I'm sure there's a lot of other species that have eaten or do eat psilocybin from time to time. And I wonder if it's done anything to them.
Have you seen videos of the jaguars in like the
No?
Amazon rainforest?
Do they eat fucking mushrooms?
Not mushrooms, but they will eat the vines of the ayahuasca plants. And
Jesus.
they don't have the same enzymes in their liver that prevent the breaking down of oral. So ayahuasca is the combination of a root, or no, a vine that contains DMT, and then another plant that is
The
like
binder.
it's an inhibitor to an enzyme within your liver. So we have enzymes in our liver that prevent us from, depending on your genetic heritage, we have enzymes in our liver that prevent us from breaking down ayahuasca or DMT orally. It's the same kind of thing where there's a lot of people of Asian descent can't process alcohol in their liver, and that's why they typically present with like red cheeks and like rosy cheeks and like sort of a red face when they do ingest liquor, because their liver enzymes literally can't break it down. So with DMT, humans have a built-in enzyme that doesn't allow us to orally ingest it, but jaguars in the jungle of the Amazon don't. And they'll like eat this plant or eat these vines and chew on them. And there's videos of them, maybe I'll put it in,
Just like rolling around,
rolling
tripping.
around, tripping balls. It's like when you give a cat catnip.
Yeah,
It doesn't
yeah.
affect humans at all, but you give a cat catnip and they are fucking on a different universe.
That's
So there's,
wild, man. I have
yeah,
never heard of that.
so there's jaguars in the woods or in the rainforests of the Amazon Delta tripping their balls off right now. And they're kind of the top predator in that area. And it's maybe because they're able to outthink and look at things from a different perspective than some of their rivals. Like jaguars eat caimans. Those are fucking just small crocodiles. And they chomp them up, pull them out of the fucking river.
I mean, how much can tripping your balls off help aid to a better hunt that the jaguar doesn't already have ingrained inside of itself?
Maybe seeing things from another perspective and being able to see what maybe the huntee or the prey is seeing, and giving yourself like sort of a more of a broadened view of what might be going on, as opposed to this very narrow, like I'm having such bad fucking deja vu right now. I swear to God, 2 nights ago I had a dream of me saying that exact same sentence. That's weird as fuck.
Just means your brain's tired.
My brain's tired.
Yeah.
My brain's always tired. My brain's always working. It never takes a fucking break. Last night,
Dude, your beard, I don't think I've seen your beard this thick before.
I think it's a perspective issue. Maybe is the hair is less, so the beard seems more. But also,
Maybe.
this is the longest I've ever grown my beard out.
Yeah, yeah.
Going on like about 4 months.
Nice.
And that's even with like trimming shit up, because like sometimes you get those wily hairs.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
especially the fucking white hairs. The white hairs grow twice as long as everything else. So I'm constantly like finding those and like pulling them out, but like
They're just gonna keep coming back with a vengeance.
They'll be 2 inches thick or 2 inches long.
I was gonna say thick. It's fucked up. Yeah, yeah.
Just pulling a hot dog out of
Just
my
like
face.
have a fat hole like right there. Like that's gross.
What
were we talking about evolution?
We were going into jaguars.
That's right.
And them tripping balls. So it's like, okay, so if jaguars found a way to find a plant that is psychoactive to them, and that's a totally different species that has objectively less sort of mental capacity than humans do with their modern brains, it would make perfect sense that humans are adventurers. You know what I mean? Like that's why we left Africa, is a group of humans went, what the fuck is on the side of those hills over there? Let's go check it out.
It could have been out of necessity as well.
Totally. But also I think humans are inherently curious, adventurous creatures where we want to find answers. And I think maybe that, psilocybin mushrooms or some sort of hallucinogen has a part to play in that curiosity, because
Mm-hmm.
when you take a psychedelic, even if it's a mild psychedelic, like just smoking marijuana, you become more curious, you ask more questions, you think about the world in a different way. And so it's totally feasible that humans, the predecessors of humans, were experimenting with different types of food and happened to find something that made them see God or made them see the world in a different way in a mild dose.
What do you think a
And
jaguar's god looks like to him?
a jaguar's God.
Yeah, yeah. Is it like is the jaguar made in God's image as well? It's just like a jaguar god.
It's just a jaguar with like long white hair and a long white beard sitting on a throne with a bunch of angels behind him. But instead, the angels are all just singing meow, 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 meow.
That's about right.
The answer is I don't know. I don't know what most humans see when they quote unquote see God.
Probably jaguars. I mean,
That actually
Anyway,
is a pretty consistent theme
yeah,
within ayahuasca
yeah,
sessions,
yeah,
is people seeing jaguars. And
yeah,
maybe
yeah.
there is like a weird spiritual connection there, but I don't know if I don't think that jaguars have the capacity to define what they saw on any sort of hallucinogen. And at the same time, I don't think humans have the ability to accurately describe what they saw. You know what I mean? Or like what they felt. Like we don't
Yeah,
have the
yeah, totally.
capacity, we don't have the vocabulary to explain what this is. And that might be what sort of religion is our desperate attempt to try and figure out how to explain what ancient people saw when they accidentally, the idea that Moses, when he went up to Mount Sinai and got the 10 Commandments from God from the burning bush, uh, there have been scientists that have proposed that that bush is the acacia bush, which is highly rich in DMT. So the whole story of Moses going up to Mount Sinai and communing and talking with this burning bush was really just a metaphor for Moses going and smoking a plant that was rich in DMT and tripping his balls off, and then coming down like, hey man, we got to be nicer to each other. Like, everyone, these are the new rules. Don't kill each other. Don't fucking, ironically, don't rape isn't in there, which is strange. Um, but like, yeah, essentially he tripped balls is the theory. Came down after having a sort of an epiphany and said like, hey, let's maybe not steal each other's shit, guys. Let's maybe not kill each other. Which, I don't know, in my experience with taking any sort of hallucinogenic substances, you generally come from that experience going like, yeah, I should be a fucking nicer person. I should be a better person. I should be more communal with the people that I care about. And I think that that's a sort of a universal effect of a lot of those uh, hallucinogens or psycho, what is it, or
Psychoactive
psychedelic,
drugs.
yeah, like psychedelic drugs. Like you usually come away from a trip going like, either, man, I had such a good time with those guys, I want to connect with them more, or man, I just thought about like a hard time and like other people that are having hard times, and I should really try and connect with those people more. And that might be the emergence of sort of a quote unquote society in ancient history of a whole group of people, pre-hominids maybe, all tripped balls together and formed this bond and then created this tribe. And now we are ride and die motherfuckers for each other. and then
We're
society
having a
builds on
hard
this
time
stuff
with
like
the
that.
being ride or die with each other right now, but I'm picking up what you're saying.
But you got to choose who you're ride and die for. Not everyone's ride and die worthy. Some people are. I don't know.
And to agree.
I'm just pontificating right now. That was a good word. That was a big word.
That was a good one.
I get proud of myself when I use like really good vocabulary and say like big words. It's a shitty thing to do, but I still feel like, yeah, I'm smart, man.
I need to eat dinner, man. And I need to cook my lunch for tomorrow.
Word. You want to try and wrap this up then?
I do.
Man, I feel like we could do another episode on
Yeah.
human evolution.
Yeah, I just got to cut short tonight because I got to start tomorrow. Otherwise, I feel like we could keep going, but
No worries.
yeah.
Let's maybe do a second part next week.
That sounds
I feel
great.
like there's still a lot that we could talk about. We
Big time.
really only scratched the surface of this. So let's figure out a way to jump out of this.
So we came down. We were eating mushrooms. We got big butts. We started losing our hair, which actually was a big one too.
Yeah, we didn't even get into that. We barely even touched
we
on the
literally
big
just
booties.
started scratching the surface.
We barely even touched the big booties.
Oh yeah, we haven't
not
done
even
anything.
a little bit. Next time you guys are gonna hear a whole lot more about big old fat human asses and how that made us run and how we were able to survive in the Serengeti and how we were able to become one of the most dominant species on the planet even 100,000 years ago. And then it's only been a crazy ride ever since then. And the progression of the modern human into becoming like a true societal impact and a global impact and becoming a fully global society. I think humans are the only species ever on the history of planet Earth to become a truly global society where we're everywhere. There's hardly a spot of land above the ocean that humans are not populating right now. And there's no other species that have done that. Which is interesting because fucking sharks and alligators and crocodiles have had fucking 65 million years to figure this shit out. Humans, we figured it out within 200,000 years because we're fucking big old stupid brains. We're not the alpha predator because of our size or our might as individuals, but we are the apex predator because of our ability to work together in a communal society. And it makes sense to me that might be something that was at least pushed forward in our evolution thanks to people experimenting with different types of fucking herbs and plants and fungi. And I just watched a little bit of Year One last night to give me some sort of context.
Nice.
And it's a perfect encapsulation of a bunch of tribal beasts. Jack Black eats the fucking fruit of knowledge, which makes him trip balls and see reality for what it truly is and how we can progress as a species. And then the movie turns into shit where they're fucking fighting the Romans and whatever. Not historically accurate. But yeah, when we work together, George Carlin has a great quote. A person is stupid, or no, a person is smart, but people are stupid. But it's also kind of the reverse, where like a human being on its own couldn't survive in the wild, but us binding together and finding these social structures has been what sort of led us to where we are today. Maybe for the detriment. because now it's too much.
Safety in numbers. Power in numbers. Yeah, being a social animal was crucial for a lot of animals' survival. Like school of fish. I mean, oh, poor schools of fish. They got a shitty life role. Basically, just like pool up and let people just frenzy all over you. And like their instinct is to group together to look large. Oof.
Not only to look large, but also, yeah, there's safety in numbers. So if a shark attacks and there's only 2 people in the water, you have a 50% chance that you're going to be the one that gets attacked. Whereas if there's 1,000 people in the water, you have a fucking 0.1% chance of getting attacked.
Mm-hmm.
But schools of fish are also fascinating because it's an individual. Each individual is just reacting to the individual fish like next to them and on top of them. And it becomes a fascinating swarm of, you see the reaction go through fish. Like this fish moves and then it becomes like a weird sort of wave motion. I'm fascinated by
cool.
the sort of physical communication of schools of fish and like how they're able to evade predators when they do come in, and just like it's all just like a ripple effect of one fish sees something and it moves, and then the other fish just kind of like fall in suit, and then they sort of spread out and they sort of morph together.
Dude, some of those school of fishes, I think, just get eaten to the last number.
Oh, some of them for sure.
Oof.
Totally.
Just get massacred.
Or if you're just a big glob of fucking millions of krill and a fucking pod of blue whales come through, you're all fucked. You're all getting swallowed.
Oh yeah.
Just like Jonah and the whale. Or sorry, Jonah and the big fish that he got swallowed by. Fuck out of here. All right, let's wrap up this. I guess this is going to be part 1 of. I still do want to continue this series. This is a fun topic, and there's a lot more to sort of delve into. So we kind of handled like the very sort of prehistory of us potentially sort of forming into what are humans. Maybe next time we'll get into like the different branches of what sort of came out of Homo sapien and Homo erectus, or I guess what came out of Homo erectus and Neanderthals and Denisovan, and and some more of the genetics.
We can even get into, once the, early Homo sapiens, and like we can bring that into the dawn of civilization. And then the next episode, we could do like ancient civilization kind of based topic again.
Totally. I think we covered the beginning, the very origins, and then we'll jump into sort of the middle and the sort of the natural selection that happened within Homo erectus and the upright walking communicative apes, and then into sort of what the transition was looking like from humans or Homo sapiens sort of taking over the other races or the other species or subspecies, and then into modern day civilization. So all right, that was part 1 of I guess now it's going to be a 3-part series. Yeah, it was fun, man. I enjoyed that.
Good. Me too.
Good. Yeah, me too.
Sorry, my brain I'm thinking about work.
All good, man. We had sort of a sign off before. I don't remember what it was. And that's one to grow on.
And that's one to grow on. We're going to stick with that.
Outro music. Maybe I'll record some David Attenborough to close things out. And now we have seen the parts of mankind that have come lo so many millions of years ago. I've lost my David Attenborough. And humankind has been evolving for millions and millions and millions of years. Yes. And then human will evolve into a pile of shit.